Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Toon Review for this morning's news and, of course, press conference reaction with myself, Paul. Thank you so much for tuning in. On this, what I have to say is a lovely, bright morning here. Been in the back garden this morning, just seeing St. James's Park in the background, gleaming in the sunshine. And why not? It is, well, there's a lot to be bright about with Newcastle United at the moment. And certainly, Eddie was once again in good spirits this morning, if a little bit uncomfortable. He admitted at the start of the press conference that he had a little bit of dental work done yesterday. So he apologized straight away if his speech sounded a bit funny. To be honest, it didn't. He just sounded like the normal Eddie, to be fair. But a couple of interesting points that he made during the press conference, which I want to touch on first, of course. The new contract to Fabian Schär. Eddie is absolutely delighted that he's signed. Of course, he's been one of Eddie's mainstays at the club since Eddie arrived after the takeover, of course. Fabian Schär was out of the side for a very long period of time under Steve Bruce, just wasn't used, which just says it all about that kind of manager, doesn't it? Eddie brought him back in, and he's been brilliant for us, Fabian Schär. Not so great this season. Obviously, he's had a few... well, more downs than ups, but hopefully he's turned a corner. He's improving in his performances now. So, yeah, let's just wait and see what happens with Fabian for the rest of the season. But he will be part of the squad next season. Of course, we are expected to buy a centre-back in the summer to go alongside Botman. And I think that should be really stressed that you know, it's going to be Botman and other next season, I would imagine, as first choice centre backs. Rachel says, now, Paul, you should add the gorgeous when you say Fab's name. See what I mean about our lady mods, guys? They are incredibly pushing me into saying things on live shows regarding Fabian Schär. They're all at it in the background. Behave yourselves. Look, Fabian Schär is a footballer, first and foremost. And I'm delighted he's signing a new contract. End of story. That's as far as I'll go with it. Now, he did make a very interesting point regarding Sean Longstaff, guys. Of course, he hasn't said a lot about Sean in previous press conferences other than to praise him. And again, you know, when he was asked about Sean this morning, he did praise him. But the interesting point that he made regarding Sean is that his future at Newcastle United is unclear. And I think that was a really big message from Eddie. We've all speculated that Sean will be leaving at the end of the season. There was a possibility, of course, that bids were going to come in for him in the winter transfer window. That didn't happen. I don't think we could have afforded to release another player, to be honest, without bringing anybody in. So it looks like Sean may well be leaving the club at the end of the season. I think it's time for him to go, if I'm openly honest. We've been very critical of Sean Longstaff for quite a while now, just saying that he isn't good enough. And I don't mean that in a bad way, you know, just... He can offer another club something, definitely. There's no doubt about that. He can. I think he still can play in the Premier League without a shadow of a doubt, but not where we want to be as a football club. And that's what I'm trying to say about Sean Longstaff, is that he will probably succeed at probably a mid-table Premier League side. You know, he'll do a good job. Everton for me has always seemed like a fit for Sean Longstaff in my eyes. You know, there's other teams there. Could he do a job at Brentford maybe, or a team along those lines, if you see where I'm going. But where Newcastle United want to be, elite Champions League level, Sean is not that player, and we know he's not. He has qualities which he can offer somebody else, absolutely. But I think, you know, it is going to happen. I mean, Craig saying can't get rid of Sean, homegrown for Europe, we lose a squad member. That's not even going to come into consideration for Newcastle United. They know that they can't keep players around, whether they're homegrown or not. You know, that can be sorted out when the European squad has to be announced. They can bring academy players into that squad for homegrown. Sean is not the future at Newcastle United. And I think even Sean knows that now. And if you look at Eddie's recent substitutions, he's never used him. Miley's come on before him, which is, Miley and Willock are way ahead of Sean Longstaff in the pecking order now. That says all you need to know about where Sean is in Eddie's eyes now is as a squad member. And I think Sean will certainly want to be on his way. No doubt about it. Julie J says Everton or Fulham would be perfect for him. Absolutely. I don't think he'd go to Sunderland, to be fair. I don't think... how would Sunderland fans feel about that? I'm not quite sure about that. But he's so far down the pecking order now. He knows he's not going to get first-team football on a regular basis. But he can elsewhere. Definitely elsewhere. And of course, we'd wish him well. Of course we would. He's a Geordie. We want him to do well. And if that means with another club, then so be it. But it was very interesting because Eddie's never really said anything like that about players before, has he? He's never sort of sat in a press conference or an interview for that matter and said, I don't think, the future's unclear. In a decisive way like he did this morning, saying that the future is unclear and that's just the way it goes. I'm happy he'd be going. I have to admit, I'll be happy he's going because, we do need somebody else. We do need somebody else. To coin a phrase, says, disagree, Paul. Using 18-year-olds who have hardly kicked the ball in the league, playing against either elite Champions League teams matters. They don't have to play, mate. They just have to be in the squad. You've got to make the squad up. There has to be a certain amount in the squad. But look, there is decent players in the academy. We need to be getting rid of the likes of Sean Longstaff now. And, so many fans have criticised Sean's performances of late when he's been on the pitch. But his time's up at Newcastle. His time is up. And I understand about the squad for the Europe. That's fine. But we need to let Sean go now. We can't keep these players around. How many times have we said, we need to get the deadwood out the club and, we need to move on from players of the past. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Yet people will say, we better not get rid of him because of this or that. We have to. We can't keep these players around the club if we want to be at an elite level. These are not elite football players that will take us to that Champions League next level. They're just not. So, I think he's going. And that stems from what Eddie said this morning. With him saying that his future is very unclear at the club. For me, that means he's going. Now, where? I don't know. But hopefully he'll do well wherever he goes, and we wish him well. Now, on the injury front, Eddie didn't give too much away, which he tends not to in press conferences. But he was asked about, of course, Isak. Isak was fit before the game. Now, he said it's not an ongoing injury with Isak, which was interesting because, we know that he's had injuries in the past where it's been dragging on for a little while, hasn't it? But he's still been going out on the pitch and playing with a little bits of injuries here and there. But this was picked up, Eddie believes, in the warm-up against Brentford. He felt a little uncomfortable in the warm-up, but said he was fit to play. Now, when you look at his performance on Wednesday night, he could have had 3 or 4 goals, but his performance wasn't great. His first touch was lacking. He wasn't holding the ball up. But listen, he could have still had... how good is that when you say a player wasn't quite at his best or wasn't anywhere near his best and still could have had 3 or 4 goals? This is what Isak is. He's just incredible. I didn't think he played great on Wednesday night, but then it's mad that he could have had a hat-trick. It's just crazy. But Isak will get better and better. Eddie said that. He's looking forward to certain players getting even better than they are already at the football club, which for us as fans is extremely exciting. Dan Robinson's dropped the super chat. Thank you, mate. As much as Longstaff needs to go, as fans, we should pay respect. He did everything he could, including the winning goal versus Forest in the Carabao Cup. Of course, yeah, he did. He got the winning penalty. Look, people need to understand that sometimes when we criticize players, we're not having a personal attack on them. We're just saying that they're not good enough. That's all we're saying. And Sean he still can do a job somewhere else, just not at Newcastle. And, Sean has, a certain level that he's got to. And unfortunately, I think Sean could have actually been better because he was brilliant under Rafa. If you remember back to Rafa being in charge, and there was links to going to Manchester United for 40 odd million quid. That's how good Longstaff was. But then he got that horrible injury and he was out for a long time. And I don't think he's been the same player since, which is a real shame because he was really looking like a top quality midfielder. He is a top Premier League midfielder. He's proved that. But not the elite level that we need to go to. Now, with other injuries, of course, there was Anthony Gordon. He hasn't trained with the group yet. He's trained on an individual basis, but he's yet to train with the group. I don't think that Anthony Gordon is going to be available for Monday, guys. That's just what I've picked up from the press conference with what Eddie was saying. Said it was a very nasty injury. He hasn't yet trained with the main team. And he's still feeling a bit of pain. Now, look, yes, the game is Monday night. He's got an extra couple of days to what he probably normally would have had we been playing at the weekend. But for me, if he's still feeling a lot of pain, as Eddie said, I can't see Anthony Gordon making the game. So it will give Harvey Barnes another opportunity to really push for a starting place. Because let's face it, he's done remarkably well the last 3 games, and good on him. He's looked dangerous. He's looked really hungry. And he's certainly not afraid to bollock anybody. Darren says Isak could score with one leg. He's that good. Absolutely. Absolutely. But trying to make runs and stuff like that on one leg might be a little bit difficult for him. But he could just get it at the penalty area. K17 says, don't risk Gordon. Play Barnes instead. Rest Gordon for the next match. Indeed, I agree. There's no reason to rush Anthony Gordon back when Harvey Barnes is in form. And let's be honest, if there's one team Harvey Barnes wants to play against, it's Leicester City. It's his former team, back at the King Power. He'll want to make an impression there without a shadow of a doubt. He did really, really well for Leicester City. I'd be interested to see what kind of reception Harvey Barnes actually gets at the King Power, because obviously he didn't play there last season because they were in the league below. But will they give him a good reception? He deserves one because he did really well for Leicester City. So won the FA Cup with him, etc. So I do believe he'll get a good reception, but he'll be chomping at the bit to play. The only worry I've got is if Isak's not fit, because Eddie wouldn't say. He was very coy about certain players today. Just, we'll see today. We'll see today. And that's the only sort of answers he gave on some of the players. We'll see today. And if Isak isn't available, a lot of people suggested playing Gordon there. Of course, Callum Wilson is fit, but I don't think Callum Wilson is anywhere near good enough to start the game against Leicester. Listen, Leicester City are fighting for their lives, aren't they? And they haven't shown it yet that they are fighting for their lives, but they are. And at some point, as Alex stated in the preview last night, at some point, you would expect Leicester City to really start making a push to try and stay up. Now, whether they're good enough to do so is a very, very different kettle of fish. Of course it is. But you'd expect them to make a go of it. So, Callum Wilson, for me, I mean, I can see everybody in the chat there. They're putting, Will Asula, give him some minutes. I agree with everybody, but for some reason, it's not. Asula is not the main spearhead for Eddie Howe. Wilson is still ahead of Asula, whether we like it as fans or not. That's the way it is. Asula is not in the. He's not in the front two thinking at the minute. When Isak's injured, it's Wilson. I'd be incredibly amazed if we get to Monday night, Isak's still not fit, and he starts Asula over Wilson. I'd be astounded. Even though that's what we want as fans, and we can see from a long way that Wilson is just, his body is completely shut down now. And I feel really, really sorry for Callum Wilson because it's not his fault. It's not his fault. He's had the injuries, but we all know that injuries take their toll eventually on footballers. If they've had a career riddled by injuries, it cuts down their career, and it also makes it very difficult for mobility on the pitch. And you can see Callum Wilson does not have that spring in his step that he did. It's there. It's fact. He can't. I mean, he can be a nuisance in the penalty area, absolutely. But for hold-up play and what Callum Wilson's really good at, Can he do it anymore? I don't think he can. His body is just shutting down on him, and it's a real shame. I feel dreadfully sorry for him, but that's the way it is. Asula, he's bright, he's mental. Let's put it that way. He's got a screw loose, the kid, and he kind of plays like that on the pitch. You know, if you remember back to the FA Cup game when he played on the right-hand side against Birmingham City, that first half, he was absolutely superb. And he was getting stuck in. He didn't mind, he didn't mind roughing it up a bit either. He loved the rough stuff. And, that's what we aspire. That's what we love as Geordies. We love seeing our players fighting for that black and white shirt, getting stuck in and making a real nuisance of themselves. That's exactly what Asula did against Birmingham. And that, for me, that would be perfect against the Leicester City defence, who are terrified at the minute of conceding goals. And you've got Asula, who is he's an enigma. You don't know what he's going to do. He'll miss open goals and then he'll score worldy. So you just don't know what's going on with Asula. And I think he really messed the Leicester defence up more than probably what Callum Wilson would, because Callum's just, the games we've seen him since he's come back, he's looked very, very lethargic. He's looked very stiff. He's not got the mobility there. And we need that mobility. But if Anthony Gordon is then fit, he'll start Gordon up front, won't he? And keep Barnes in the side. Jacob Murphy, although I don't think he was great on Wednesday night either, he still picked up another assist. And he's still got that knack of just getting one decent ball into the box, which, of course, if Isak's there or whoever, will finish the ball, because he does get that one ball per game. That is just incredible. And that was with the cross for Isak's goal on Wednesday night. Before he provided that cross, he was rotten. He couldn't pass the ball. He couldn't hold on to the ball. It was one of those, oh no, not a poor Jacob Murphy performance, but that's what it was. But Jacob is Jacob, and listen, he will stay in the side. There's no doubt about it. But Eddie said about Leicester, we know they are dangerous. We know they have good players. We are going to have to be on our guard. There are no easy games in this league. We have to respect Leicester City, and we need to go there with the right attitude. To be honest, I mean, he says that pretty much every game, that we have to go with the right attitude. And I think what's really important this time around for the final run-in is the attitude. We have to make sure that the attitude is right. Wednesday night it could have been a really frustrating night for Newcastle United, because I have the feeling, had Pinnock not hit the post and actually scored, I don't think we get back in that game. I think we lose it. But then we go up the other end, and obviously Tonali does what he does. But it was a frustrating game because we had so many opportunities. Brentford had a lot of possession, but we had the better of the opportunities. And we need to make those count and not get frustrated in games, because I think that's easy done. It's certainly easy done from us as a supporter's point of view when we see chances going begging, and we're thinking, oh my God, come on. The players, they have to stay positive. They have to believe that something is going to happen. Even if the game is just sort of chance after chance, we're just not converting. We have to keep the attitude as, hey, let's just keep our heads up here. We're okay. We will get a goal. And so attitude is very, very important. And when you're going against teams who are at the other end of the table fighting for their lives, they will not care about tactics. They will not care about, playing certain systems. All they care about is getting points. So they may turn up on Monday night and think, right, the only way we can get at Newcastle United is to rough them up. So you would expect Leicester City to really put in a physical performance, because they can't match us footballing wise. They just can't. They're not good enough to do that. And that's been proved over the course of the season. So what Leicester City will have to do is rough us up. And there is the attitude again, the mentality that we can't get involved in any silly little niggles that go on the pitch. And yes, I'm talking about Joe Linton here mainly, because he can lose his temper very quickly. He can get frustrated very quickly. He needs to stick to his game, which is really good right now, if he's fit. Because, again, he was one of the players that suffered an injury on Wednesday night. He did play through it, but he did have a lot of strapping on as well. And Eddie said this morning he wouldn't be surprised if he went in and Joe Linton's sitting there saying, I'm ready to train, because that's the attitude that Joe Linton has. But remember what we said on the preview show last night, that this time of the season, it's all about just, forgetting the bruises, forgetting the little knocks, and going out there and performing. It's the main pinnacle of the season here, which moves into the next season. You have to do what you've got to do as footballers. If you've got a little niggle with your knee, or you've got a little, whatever it may be, you kind of just strap it up and get on with it and think, right, this is more important. Finishing in the Champions League is more important. We've got to do that. So let's put whatever little, and I'm not talking about major injuries, obviously, and muscle pulls and things like that. You have to be sensible. But I think people understand that this time of the season now, you need your best players on the pitch. You do. And we have to have our best players on the pitch for the remainder of the season. There is some absolute winnable games, but the Premier League doesn't work like that. And that's when you have to have your elite players on the pitch, your leaders on the pitch. The leaders have to come to fruition in the final few games. Kieran Trippier was another one, of course. Eddie said that it doesn't seem to be a serious injury with Kieran as well. So he will obviously have a chat with Kieran Trippier today, see how he is. So Monday's, it's a bit foggy at the minute as to who's going to play and who's going to be fit for the game. In fact, it's very foggy. We'll just have to wait and see to what happens with the team. Because he went and said, we'll wait and see. I will see Kieran and Alexander for the first time today. We don't think we have any big injuries from Wednesday night, but we have a few niggles. We are monitoring Anthony Gordon. He is still recovering. He's done individual training, not group training. We'll have to wait and see. So again, exactly what I mean about it. We'll have to wait and see. Dan Robinson with a super chat saying, time to break out the magic water. Yes, indeed. The magic water. Now, Harvey Barnes, he was asked about Harvey Barnes and, of course, his performances. And we asked a lot of Harvey Barnes as fans. We asked him to step up, prove that you're a £40 million signing by stepping up in the absence of Anthony Gordon. And what he said was Harvey has been chomping at the bit to play. He's been desperate to showcase what he can do. He brings unique things to the group. He is a goal threat. I trust him a lot. He has a lot of great attitudes. I've been really happy how he has come into the team, and he has been a consistent threat for us. And that's all we ask of Harvey Barnes, isn't it? Just be that threat. We know what he's got in his locker. We know he's got a fantastic shot on him. We know he can cut in and cause a lot of problems. But time and time again throughout the season, he kind of went missing. He'll have a good 10 minutes and then he'll just sort of die off. But the last few games, he hasn't. He's been in the game all the way through and he hasn't stopped running. And his effort has been fantastic. And I know everybody said last night that, we want to see angry Barnes. That's the player that we want to see on the pitch who will do a job. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because Harvey Barnes, he was incensed with Isak the other night, and he was incensed when he came off the pitch. But that you can see the hunger in Harvey the last few games. And if he can perform like that, he is going to be an asset to this football club. Don't get me wrong. Will he be the very best? No, but he'll be an asset, and a very good asset to have as well, because he's got a wonderful shot on him. And I genuinely believe that he's really taken this opportunity by the scruff of the neck. By the absolute scruff of the neck, and wants to be successful. Ken says, Paul, it's obvious why Asula doesn't get minutes. He's not Premier League standard and never will be. League One level at best. Can see him being moved on in the summer. Wow. Ken, that's a big call, matey. I don't really agree with you. I don't. Because, not yet, anyway. I think we've got to see a lot more from Asula before we can make a decision like that. He's very, very raw. He's still very young. Well, he's youngish. I mean, is the part of me that says Asula isn't really what we're looking for? Yes, of course there is. But, working under Eddie and working... Look at Lewis Hall. He didn't get a look in last season. And look what it did for him. He as long as Asula is working... And listening to what Eddie's got to say, then I think, the potential's there. Absolutely, it's there. Again, it's just a question of time with Asula. Now, I mean, there wasn't anything else really that Eddie mainly touched on. You know, he was asked a few things about Leicester and about the game, but those were the main points. And I just thought the one about Sean was incredibly interesting. You know, because I've never heard Eddie say that a player's future is unclear at the football club. That's the first time I've really heard Eddie come out and say that. I mean, that may be just a knock-on effect to Sean's representatives to start looking for new clubs or trying to get deals done, or potentially getting deals done as soon as the transfer window opens in the summer. That's what it looks like to me, 100%. I think he really thinks the world of Fabian Schär. There's absolutely no doubt about that. He's delighted that he's obviously coming to the club for another year, and he's got that, I guess, satisfaction of knowing that we can bring in another player in the summer. And, you know, Dan Burn's still going to be around as well, let's not forget. The question is, can Botman stay fit? And if he can, then we've got a tremendous back four or whatever he wants to play next season. You know, and he can rotate as well. He's not sort of handcuffed to playing the same two over and over again. And that's going to be needed. And lessons need to be learned from last time we were in Europe, of course, because we didn't strengthen the squad as much as we should have. And we let it go, really. We ended up in terrible situation with injuries. And I don't think they want to make that mistake again, which is why I genuinely believe we will have plenty of defenders to choose from next season. Plenty of players, actually. I think we do a massive recruitment in the summer, and we will then make sure that we have the ability to rotate. And Eddie has that option because he needs that next season when we're in Europe, whether it's in the Champions League or the whatever Europa League we're in. He needs rotation, and hopefully we'll get it. But it's a big summer. He was asked, actually, you know, is this summer, are we in a position where we can recruit? And Eddie was very open. He said, we are in a much better position than we have been in previous transfer windows, where we can actually go out and do some business. So I think Eddie himself is actually looking forward to the summer transfer window. Because as a manager, you want to keep improving your squad because, you know, you want to work with the very best players that are available. And these players who will potentially be coming to Newcastle will look at the events of last week, winning the cup, of course, and seeing 300,000 people turn up for a bus tour, a parade. You know, they're going to look at that and think, I want to be a part of that. Look at the fanatical support. And don't forget the players talk to each other as well. Players will discuss the manager, what he's like. And I have a feeling that if anybody asks any of our players what Eddie Howe's like, you'll get a glowing reference. And that can only help with the ability to attract players to the football club and bring them through the door. Because that's what we need at Newcastle United. We need that kind of, I guess, reputation where players are so happy. There's a camaraderie in that dressing room. There's no big egos there. And that's what we need to avoid when we do the recruitment, of course. We don't want the big egos. We want to maintain what we've got and keep that dressing room morale and not lose that. Because if there's a bad apple comes into the dressing room, it kind of creates a problem. And that's what I think Newcastle will do their homework on as well and make sure they will assess the players' attitude in the past. And they will ask various other managers who've worked with these certain players, what are they like in the dressing room? What are they like away from the pitch? Newcastle will assess all of that, I think, before bringing anybody into the football club, whether they're an elite worldly footballer or not, because that is going to, what is their personality, right? That is going to be huge in the dressing room for Newcastle United as well. No doubt about it. But there you go, folks. That is the main talking points from this morning's press conference. It's now on to Monday night, of course, and the King Power Stadium with Leicester City. Both teams have something to play for. Leicester scrapping for their lives. Newcastle scrapping for the Champions League place. We're back tonight. Don't forget, 7 o'clock, TTR Friday. All the usual segments of TTR Friday, as well as having a really good laugh tonight. And of course, talking about the previous week's Newcastle United news, all the big stories. We'll touch on the press conference again. So make sure you're with us at 7 o'clock tonight for that. It's going to be a cracking show as usual. Sunday night, we've then got the match preview for the Leicester game, and then match day live on Monday night. So loads coming up on the channel. But if you have enjoyed this morning's show, please give it a thumbs up. And of course, if you are new and you like what you see, hit that subscribe button. It is free to do so. And make sure you hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload or a future live. And of course, thank you very much to Mamaroo Records, our channel sponsor, based in Whitley Bay. If you're ever in the Whitley Bay area, pop in and see Steve for all your music needs. Tell him you're a TTR viewer, and he'll do your fabulous deal. If you can't get into the shop, check them out online. It's pinned right at the top of the description. So please, if you're ever in need of your music stuff, check out Mamaroo. Give him your support. Thank you very much for watching, guys. We'll see you back at 7. Have a fantastic Friday. Take care, everybody.